on, Road Grinders? Dean here. That would be Dean 78904 if you want to get all technical on me. It is 8 o'clock on the East Coast, 5 o'clock on the West Coast. And, of course, that means it's time for Friday Night DFS Live. Starring myself, Dean 78904. And Luke Lewison, you guys know him better, is a giant ball of oil. Luke, something was missing in the start of the show. Normally we have the cold open. What happened to the cold open?
Sometimes you have to be receptive to the people's opinions of which you are entertaining. It was also incredibly hard and incredibly low quality given the time I was taking. So for anyone that bitched, complained, hated, groaned, you won. You are the victor. Congratulations on your victory. I'm just going to go ahead and say it went out with the hurricane. Hurricane came in and swept the video away. It's good to see you survive, though, buddy. Missed you last week.
Yeah, thanks to Beer for stepping in for me. Thanks to Britt for stepping in for me on Sunday as well. I went to Greenville, about 3 hours east, and I got very, very lucky here in Charleston, the area that I'm in. We never lost power, and just super, super lucky, and obviously pretty awful what happened to some people out there. There's actually a hurricane tournament on DraftKings, like a relief fund, and DraftKings is matching 100%. It's $5 to jump in, and I don't have the link, unfortunately. Maybe I'll tweet it out. I know Dan Bach tweeted it out last night. And somebody actually gave him a hard time for it because they thought he was like guilting them. He was trying to, we live in a society, Luke, right? Should I pour a little bit out for your cold open, or are we good? By the way, black and tan, top that.
Very little out. Very little out.
Oh, well, what are you sipping on there? Because New England black and tan is that's kind of like the Stone Best beverage.
Ambergeddon, the Ale Asylum, local to Madison. Since I did that show with beer last week, I was, searching through Beer Cup awards and Wisconsin beers I hadn't tried in a while, and it kind of piqued my, why haven't I had that in a while? Why didn't I get that? So I definitely went and got some 6-packs of Wisconsin beer after last Friday.
I went ahead and caught your show when I was on the road. I caught it on delay or whatever, on tape, however you want to say it. And then I've had these beers sitting in my fridge for 6 months or so. I don't know what the born on date is. That was a whole racket, right? With Budweiser, the whole born on date. By the way, I don't care what day you're born on. You're still Budweiser. You're still terrible. You could be 2 minutes ago. I'm not drinking.
Here's the thing, right? We have expiration dates on things. That's the naughty date, right? When they just give us when it was made, they assume we know how long it's supposed to go before something bad happens.
No idea.
What's the number? What is it? I mean, especially given that it's alcohol and it was aged to get to where it is.
Sure.
So it feels like, how could more time be a problem?
It's a racket. And, yeah, I'm not a big drinker, but I dabble on occasion. And, again, I was inspired to watch your show last week, and I figured I don't know how often we're going to be correct or not. I only have one beer, but maybe I'll nurse it. I'll sip it. We're not really sure. But we're definitely going to dive in as far as what's going on in the slate tonight. You guys know that coming up after us, of course, is Levitan, JF to Win, and Jeff the Jeff. That's a pretty solid show. And maybe possibly an appearance for the Stone Best Dog and all of DFS. Jerry, the first thing we're tackling, you're the host here, correct?
Yes, I am. I was inspired to do this as I was making lineups. And you have that thing where you click your last player in and you're like, how does that look? And you're like, oh, I have 2 of them. And, sometimes that can work, right? But sometimes you're like, I don't want 2 guys because you think they're going to trade off. There's just not a big enough pie. And so I thought we'd go through some teams and talk about multiple options in a little game of war. And you will tell me when they lay side by side whose value is higher, who wins the game of war. And I thought this inaugural game, there's no place we can start except for the most classic one. The Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, who do you play? It's the hardest question every week. It's the first question every week. Who is what and who wins the war?
Yeah, it's really, really tricky. And you're kind of asking a cash player, so I'm probably going to lean towards Le'Veon Bell. Look, he's 2 players the price of 1, right? He's going to get you 10 targets in the passing game, give or take. And he's also going to run for 150 yards against Miami because they're just absolutely putrid. Antonio Brown, I don't know if you know this, but this is a narrative street game. He's from Miami. That's where he grew up. And I believe, how last week he rocked those Muhammad Ali shoes? Yeah. I saw he tweeted out today that he's going to be rocking apparently 1 shoe with Kimbo Slice from Miami as well and Jose Fernandez. So, I mean, look, I'm much more apt to roster Le'Veon Bell just because he's an absolute monster and he's going to get – he feels like such an absolute lock, and I love Antonio Brown. I had this conversation with, on Twitter earlier today, or was it yesterday? Somebody was suggesting that Antonio was a trap, which I thought was absolutely silly. And the second part is they said he's going to be 30% owned, which I thought was absurd as well.
Yeah. His price relative to everyone else on FanDuel is better, right? That 10K on DraftKings when a lot of those guys are 7K to 8K. It's so punitive. Not as punitive on FanDuel, but I'm with you. It feels like more of a rush week. So the next. Oh, by the way, what did we have for values? I mean,
so here's the thing. I actually have a deck of Rotogrander's cards. I don't know how this is going to work, but last time I was in Nashville, I got hooked up some cards to represent. Yeah. And I mean, this is a really tough. It's like an ace versus a king, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think you're right there. And you lose your king. It's a bummer, but what do you do? All right. So the next one, I was kind of inspired. I did a little case study on the short slate of last week, the Sunday-Monday slate, and I didn't play Greg Olson, and I played Calvin Benjamin, and it ended up being that you had to play Olson. That was it. And so if you're looking this week, I mean, they got the stone best matchup against the Saints. You play Benjamin at 7,800 or Greg Olson at 8,100 or both or neither, or is it a tie? What are we doing for WAR this time?
It's Olson for me over Benjamin. I just like the pivots. I mean, I don't really like the spend downs at tight end. Maybe you do. I think there's some guys that are certainly pop, but I don't really feel particularly great about anybody. I feel a little bit better about the spend downs at wide receiver. And Benjamin's 7-8. I like the guys that are around 7-ish or so. Cooper is right there. Landry's right there. I think he's a better option. I mean, of course, you want to get as many shares possible. In tournaments and just in general to that Carolina-New Orleans game. But I feel so good about Olsen getting 100, a touchdown, and like 7 catches. Like that's happening.
That cliff, what Benjamin did the first 2 weeks to the third week was so weird that it lingers in my mind still. Like you can't trust him, especially not in cash, despite the volume.
You Cliff, or are you talking to somebody in chat?
What?
Did you just call me Cliff?
The Cliff.
Oh. Oh, I thought you were calling me Cliff. I'm like, is there somebody in chat named Cliff?
No, Benjamin went from like mid double-digit targets 2 weeks in a row to like 1 or 2, right? In week 3, like nothing. His targets fell off a cliff in week 3, so I don't know.
I mean, sure, of course. I'm not going to tell you not to play him in tournaments, but I feel better about Olsen than Benjamin. Obviously, it's different positions, but if I have more coverage as of right now on Olsen than I do Benjamin.
Is this the matchup you'd consider both in maybe a tournament lineup or something? Like they're both expensive too.
No, I wouldn't do it. Because Cam's running one in.
Okay, so San Francisco, it's nice that they have a bad defense because even if they had a good defense, we would convince ourselves to play people against them because of the extra plays, right? The Chip Kelly effect that we all do to each other. But Buffalo has like nothing to attack them with. So I'm asking, LaShawn McCoy is used all over the place and he's a great play and there's a lot of guys that compete with him at running back that have good plays. Would you play him or would you play Cheapy Charles Clay?
Yeah, Mama called him Clay. We talked about Muhammad Ali already, but no, it's LaShawn McCoy. And again, look, west to east, monster favorite against a terrible team, extra runs, all the revenge with Chip Kelly. Gillislee is not getting a 1-yard touchdown this week. That's just not happening. There's no chance. I don't care how tired LaShawn McCoy is. Like he ran like a 50-yard run or so, got down to the 3-yard line, and he tapped his helmet, came out of the game, and Gillislee he pulled a coon, but. No, that's not happening. McCoy will just be absolutely exhausted walking into the end zone against San Francisco. Bell is 1, McCoy is 2 for me, and as of my cash games on Thursday, I just locked them both in. And Charles Clay, how much they really got to pass the ball, and it seems like they've sort of turned. Why am I forgetting his name? The quarterback there for Buffalo into a game manager of sorts, which is kind of frustrating. And I mean, is Robert Woods in play? I kind of gave him a look at San Francisco's 32nd in the league as far as DVOA against number 1 receivers. Yes, by default, Robert Woods is the number 1 receiver there for Buffalo. I'm trying to find some cheap receivers, but Clay, I'll tell you this, on DK, he's 2.9. Kind of interested there at 2.9. 2.9. Come on, 2.9?
It's like it's like a blank check to everything else in your roster on DK when you can get a tight end there below 3K. And the other thing is he's not just a fat, blubbery tight end, former fullback.
He's legit.
So, I mean, he can go down the field a little. There's a couple of weeks where he showed it last year, but it was real inconsistent. I don't think you can trust it. We're just going to keep banging off awesome running back plays. Maybe eventually we'll get it figured out. But DeMarco Murray is 8,800, Delaney Walker 6,700. Me and you had a point of contention over Delaney last week. What do you think this week heading into Cleveland?
Yeah, I like the matchup, and I like I chopped my cash game in 3, and I actually stepped down and to kind of open things up in our spots. And I was a little upset about it, but I have Walker on some of my cash games just because I think that matchup is beautiful there against Cleveland. Cleveland's just awful in general, and he's the number 1 receiver in that team, right? Like it's not Tajay Sharp. He's gonna in the red zone he should thrive as well, and I think he gets in the box, probably 7 or 8 targets. not a ton of yards necessarily, but I'm looking at like 6 catches, 70 yards, somewhere around there, 60 yards and a touchdown, and that's perfectly fine for me.
I have an outlook pretty similarly projected to Greg Olsen, and he's whatever, like 1,400 less than Olsen on FanDuel this week.
Yeah,
I'm going to
really
play Olsen for sure. Let's hop to a little unconventional war. Somehow we're going to manage to manufacture a 4-way war here where somebody plays Julian Edelman, someone plays Chris Hogan, someone plays Gronk, and someone else plays Martellus Bennett. Now you got to decide who's what value and who wins that one.
I got to find all the 2s in the deck. Hold on a second.
You got some 2s for that one. All right, so you're bearish on the Niners.
Just play Brady naked, right? Like Martellus Bennett, by the way, it's worth noting. It's the Patriots, so who knows what they're doing. They're always doing something wonky, but he's questionable as of right now. I mean, Gronk's probably going to smash, but I'm not paying up 8 for it. I'm just not doing it. Maybe in tournaments, I suppose, but I'm not someone that rolls out like more than like 7 or 8 GPP lineups. Hogan, come on, man. And there's also like Amendola, it's kind of lurking there. Edelman's got the foot. Like, what's the deal with his foot? I don't know if he's really hurt, if he's not hurt, if it's actually a thing, because, it's like, what is it, the boy who cried wolf, right? Is he actually legitimately hurt? Because I don't believe it. Maybe he is. I played him. I was kind of burned by Edelman. I had so much Edelman 2 weeks ago. Was it last week? It was last week.
Last week was the Edelman. Everyone was Edelman in cash, yeah.
I'm not playing any of these guys. Like, I'm just not. I mean, I think if you just play Brady naked. I don't know. Do you have a take on this?
I think out of those ones, I think that Gronk is a jack. I mean, because, I think he wins, and I think he's probably pretty good. But the tricky part is what his salary does to a lineup this week.
I think he's a joker. I think Gronk's a joker. That's like a GBP like wild card, right? Are
you a charades player by any means? Charades? I played very little charades. I like charades.
No, I'm
the only thing I know is knows it right there. When you go with Gronk as the joker, yep, that right there knows it.
What's rhymes with? Is it rhymes with a thing? Rhymes with? I don't know how there's a symbol for that, but I forget what it is. I'm very rusty in my charades game.
Me too. Maybe we can figure out a way to work charades in. Just no talking for an entire show, just straight charades.
It's like, the people hated the cold open. What could they hate more, possibly? I got it. Charades.
I like the idea of, you thought that was bad? Fine, that's gone. Wait till we fuck with you now. Ooh.
Oh, man. You know what? 7-second delay. So it's also that they're turning these podcasts into audio, like just strictly audio, so that'll be fun too.
Yeah.
Is my iPad broken or something? What's going on here?
All right, so this is the reason I made the game. It was Jordan Howard and Cameron Meredith. I had both in a DK lineup, and I wasn't sure if I could play both. I wasn't sure how much I trusted the Bears. I liked them both a lot this week. Who is what value?
Well, I mean, Cameron Meredith is like, you got to kind of lock him in your cash games just because he kind of makes everything else work. I'm not so certain he's like a lock and load for 12 targets. Supposedly, the Kevin White target's just kind of been funneled right to him, and maybe that's just Hoyer likes to target that particular route. I don't know. But Jordan Howard's really, really good. Like, this guy's legit, and he's getting – and his volume's absurd, too. He's in the field, at least 90% of the snaps or so. That backfield is entirely his. And I like the fact that they're favored as well. The tricky part, of course, is that there's a massive opportunity cost this week to running backs. And if you're rostering Jordan Howard, that means you're bumping somebody else out of line. And we already talked about, McCoy. We talked about Bell, and we talked about dude on Tennessee. It just kind of lost his name for whatever reason. So it's like, I really want to pay for those 3 guys on DK. And I think a lot of people do. And it's kind of tricky. And you're going to need a guy. You're going to need some cheapies at wide receiver, obviously. You're going to need a guy like Cameron Meredith. But are you talking cash game or tournament? What are you talking there?
It's called cash.
Cash, it's Meredith.
Is Meredith just opportunity cost at running back?
You don't think so?
I do. I think so as well. Meredith, to me, has been the first one in. But, there's all those running backs are so good, I end up going down, to make more money, and he's there. But ultimately, I think it's Meredith.
I took a look at, we're having a little tournament I took a look at one of your shell lineups this week, and we had a disagreement. You had some interesting plays in there, but I was like, my first thought was, I'm glad I have veto power this week, and I'm glad I have it.
It's your lineup this week, buddy. I'm going to try to help you wherever I can, but it's yours. All right, so friendship on the line. Amari Cooper in his one big game, 7,100, or Michael Crabtree better every single week for 7K?
Well, first of all, you're framing the question. You're leading the witness.
I'm sorry, I didn't even notice. You're
wearing your lawyer shirt, and you're leading the witness. But it's Cooper. It's Cooper. It's not Crabtree. You know the interesting thing about this? Like I kind of mentioned it. I was on Sirius a couple weeks ago and talked about it. You remember when Michael Crabtree was like the next big thing, and everybody thought he was the sexiest play, and now he's like the boring play we don't want to play. Remember when he was in college with Texas Tech? I want to say he was going to be like, this guy's going to be the GOAT receiver of all time, and he was awesome. And now it's like, I don't want to play Crabtree. But if you look at the matchups, Crabtree is going to face most likely Marcus Peters, who's the much better corner there. So I'm sticking with Cooper. I'm hanging with Mr. Cooper.
Is that because they play sides? Is that how we expect that to happen?
I saw that too. It's not my thing. It's not my specialty. But I fired up the PFF matchup charts, the quarterback receiver matchup charts, and it's not 100% obviously, but there's generally speaking, it looks like Cooper more likely is going to have the softer matchup.
Okay, could be. Cooper gets more, or Crabtree gets more volume, is more trusted in the red zone. Maybe not this week, but as a rule.
Are you concerned with the winds there? Apparently there's going to be some winds in Oakland as well. I mean, that's rain I don't care about, as long as it's not hard rain. But, and it's a couple days out. Like, I'm not going to sit here and project. I don't want to project weather ever. I'll leave that to Kevin Roth, of course, chief meteorologist. But I really can't speak on that today. Of course, on Sunday, if there's going to be like 30-mile-an-hour gusts, I'm not playing either one.
Yeah. I'm going to look at the weather, but I don't spend a second considering weather until Sunday. I feel like they're wrong even when we're getting weather at 11 o'clock for a noon game. All right, we got a little three-way war here, a little menage a war coming up. And this is tricky. It's just the way the Packers don't give up anything on the ground. Something has to happen. I don't expect Dez to play. I could be wrong. But if it's Cole Beasley, 5,900, Bryce Butler, 5,600, Terrence Williams, 5,600, like, is there anyone you can play there? And if so, how, why, and where?
Yeah. Terrence Williams is a young Mike Wallace. Like, I don't want to play Terrence Williams. He's just going to run that go route. Bryce Butler is the most talented dude of the bunch. He's got the upside there. And Cole Beasley is going to get you like 4 really unattractive on Zexy catches or something like that, maybe 6 or 7. You mentioned the run defense there for Green Bay. Are you aware of who they played so far as the running backs they've actually opposed?
I mean, they broke Adrian Peterson.
Okay.
They did him, but then they broke him like the Russian in Rocky IV.
I'll break you.
Down to nothing. They obviously, the Giants' run game is pretty garbage. They played them.
The Lions.
What?
The Lions and theoretically just can't run between tackles.
Yeah. So what you're saying is
and the Jaguars. But what I'm saying is that I don't know. Like I'm not ready to say that the Packers have this amazing run defense. They may, and DVOA suggests they do. But like I want to see him play against a real line and a real running back, and let's kind of see how it goes down this week.
I watch obviously a lot more Packers than a lot of other teams. They spend a lot of time in the backfield, like runs, hits, just like maybe even if a running back gets a 5-yard run, his first interaction, Nick Perry's been excellent. I saw some charts where he's all over the line of scrimmage. Like, it's not just the running back. It feels like they're aggressive and playing well. But you're right. They haven't really faced stiff competition. I love that they broke Adrian Peterson. We break you.
Do you not like Adrian Peterson? Or are you rivals? I guess Minnesota, right? I guess that would make sense.
Rival of Minnesota. Also, I have 2 young boys, so like we're going to be fine without him. Christian Michael, 7,400. Jimmy Graham, 6,900. Love Jimmy Graham. Love Jimmy Graham this week. What do you think?
My problem with Jimmy Graham is they're asking. This is like market price Jimmy Graham, like 2014 in New Orleans. That's my problem. Why are they asking for that price?
Well, maybe I guess I'm fan of 6,900, but like isn't he below Kelsey and below Delaney Walker on DK?
The
200-yard games this year already.
All right. I thought our show is driven by FanDuel. Our show is driven by FanDuel. The next show is driven by DK. We got to stay on brand here.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. I'm going to go off of brand here in a couple games, but as it is, 200-yard games, those 100 yards translate to both.
I like them both. And again, this is one of those deals where we talk about the three elite running backs, and we're going to talk about Lamar Miller in a second too as well. And I'm sure Kristen Michael, all these guys are going to kind of if they were playing on a different week with the same matchup, they would get much more of ownership. But I feel like they're kind of going to get lost in the shuffle. Sorry for that.
No apologies needed. You make a pun in my presence, you don't apologize.
I will delete my account when I get off the show immediately. But yeah, I mean, the weather's a little bit tricky there too. Again, keep an eye on what's going on there in Seattle. They're talking about some crazy winds and some potential power being knocked out. I'm not sure what's going on in Seattle, but again, a couple days out. Michael makes a great tournament play because he's legit. He's good. He's even catching the ball these days too. But My problem again, Jimmy Graham at 6'9", it's so close to Olsen, and Olsen's just such a lock. I don't know, man. Of course, for tournament, sure, yada, yada, yada. But for me, I just can't play. I can't really play Graham. If I'm going to play one in cash, it's Michael over Graham. But again, I probably don't want Michael either because I like the elite running backs.
I agree. Even with 200-yard games, I feel more confident in Walker's usage. I even feel more confident in Kelsey's usage. But, it's one of those things where you built in a little bit more of a floor, but your actual expected value, I like them a little more. But last one, and this one's kind of colored a little bit by Will Fuller's health, I think, maybe, because I didn't even realize that he had a hamstring. But Lamar Miller, great matchup against Indy. Will Fuller, I think a great matchup is the number 2 wide receiver against Indy, although maybe they're not going to shadow now. Who knows how that ends up going down. What do you like Houston there?
Yeah, again, to yield to the PFF receiver versus corner matchup, basically, they have Fuller going up against Patrick Robinson. They were talking about Vontae Davis not shadowing Hopkins. Like, would they gamesmanship, right? Like, what are they? Is that legit? Is that real? Is that what they're going to do? I don't know. I would imagine, Fuller's going to have the softer matchup amongst the two. And I will say this: I like the idea of playing Fuller with the Houston defense as a double dip candidate.
Yeah. Can I tell you? All right. Hey, CSU Rams, you're probably not listening, but if you are, just earmuffs.
Who are you talking to?
CSU. If Peter Jennings is watching, just earmuffs. That double dip is the most overrated thing in the history of things. You're so much more likely to play a player and have him just score 2 touchdowns straight up than have him score a special teams touchdown that counts in 2 different spots on your roster. Like, the idea of going out of your way to get a defense that you also have a player, so the one touchdown, like, touchdowns abound. This is the NFL. There's touchdowns everywhere.
Luke, I'm going to say this. I agree with you.
But you need to get one of them to count twice.
I'm going to agree with you at a certain point. It's not the most overrated thing in the history of things. That's like, I don't know, Tyler Perry or so. But so the problem with your argument, it's just so much fun to say double dip. Like, it makes you think of Seinfeld, you think of George Costanza. So it's got a good name. It's got good marketing. Because it has good marketing, you want to say it. You want to use it.
Brand. We're going to talk about brands a little later.
Say it again?
We're going to talk about brands a little later. You're saying double dip as a good brand. All right.
Yeah, it's a solid brand.
All right, why don't we flip over to our next game?
All right, I'm going to play the role of host. By the way, I'm shocked the Family Feud has not dropped in out of nowhere. I've been waiting for it the whole time. I'm on edge. I guess that's not happening anytime soon. Maybe it's gone away.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
You know fully well what I'm talking about. But that said, this is our next game. Where it's value or PU, as in it stinks. I'm going to name some cheapies for you. You tell me if well, it's kind of self-explanatory. Value or PU. Colin Kaepernick, value or PU?
Well, he is, we should say, starting this week, starting for playing Kaepernick.
Well, wait, hold on. What just happened? My game just got hijacked? What just happened?
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Family Feud. Sniffed it out, Dino. Sniffed it up. On the board today, we have our top 6 answers. The question, name NFL defenses / special teams that have multiple touchdowns this week.
Wait, this week or this year?
This year.
Oh, boy. Well, the first one's got to be Buffalo because Colin Kaepernick is what triggered it, so it's got to be Buffalo. I figured out.
I think he's on to us. Go me, Buffalo. Dang, 3 touchdowns this year.
Okay, I'm fairly. I know Fuller's run at least one back this year, so I'm going to say Houston. Maybe they had another touchdown.
Show me Houston. You, sir, have accounted for every touchdown that they scored with that Fuller return.
Oh, not cool. That was not cool. New England. I feel like New England's done it a couple times.
Show me New England. I think they had one in week 1, and that's it.
Oh, boy. They're going to steal. They're going to steal in a second.
Yes. Oh, yeah, chat. Just so you're aware, feel free to start firing in your questions. Dean, avert your eyes from chat, and we'll see if
what I need right now?
You're going to nail off a couple here. Let's go.
I need 4 family members around me just saying, like, good answer. No matter how terrible the answer is, good answer. Okay, so Minnesota's not playing this week, but Minnesota, I know they definitely run at least one back. They scored last week. Yeah, I think Minnesota's on the board.
Show me Minnesota. Ding! Lead the NFL with 4 defensive/special teams touchdowns.
All right. Let's see. Who else? So did Philly do this? I'm totally stumped here.
For whatever it's worth, you got the top 2 and the only ones that have more than 2 in naming the Bills and the Vikings.
Yeah, I'm not feeling good about this. I feel like the Rams scored a defense. I'm gonna go with the Rams. A very unenthusiastic Rams.
San Francisco Cody just gave you a good answer. All right, the Rams. Show me Rams. Oh, Dean, your third X. The next answer that comes up is the chat's attempt to steal. We get Chiefs and Broncos. A double answer. Well, it turns out that Guadalamachina double stole. Both the Broncos and the Chiefs have 2 touchdowns this year to go with the Panthers and the Falcons.
Well, there you go. Congratulations.
Remember, I thought you'd get the Broncos because they single-handedly won Smiz $1 million, and then they had another one.
Well, they didn't single-handedly. I mean, that's probably not the correct way of saying it.
Even among single-handed performances, there's multiple hands there. All right, back to the game.
Fail on my part. Yeah, Denver scored 2 touchdowns in the same game. Fail for me. I'm getting kicked out of the family.
All right, it's okay. You can't win them all. Congratulations, chat, on your steal. All right, so Kaepernick for me, PU. Here's my thinking. We didn't want to play Gabbert. And, Kaepernick in his best incarnation is probably a pretty good play. But, he's not even the minimum, right? He's 6,400. And he's also have you seen pictures of him? He looks frail compared to what he used to look like. He's had 3 surgeries since the start of last year, throwing thumb, off shoulder, and a scope at his knee. I don't buy that he's what he used to be on his legs, but I will say I'm not playing him. He's not a value. He's a PU, but he still gallops through my nightmares from those 2 playoff games against the Packers.
Yeah, the weird thing, there's a rumor, from an unnamed source or so that basically said that Christian Ponder's their best quarterback. He should be playing like somebody in the team, and that's a bad sign. But that said, I'm still going to play one share of Kaepernick just in case as a maybe because, look, Blaine Gabbert's had 22 carries in the last 2 games, running the read option, right? And Kaepernick, if he's going to do anything, it's going to be the read option. Before, we've seen him break 70-yard runs. Maybe I'm being stupid. And again, I say that saying that I'm going to play Buffalo in cash as much as I possibly can. That's kind of the defense I'm honing in on. And as far as defenses this week, I think it's Buffalo, and then it's there's a big gap to 2 because who's your second favorite defense this week? Assuming Buffalo's not number 1.
I like Houston against Indy because I think Andrew Luck makes bad decisions. I like Detroit a little bit. I think the fact that we can play defenses against Case Keenum week in and week out is a godsend, but the Detroit defense is really banged up, so I've backed off that a little bit. And, I mean, if you can get to the top and you can get to Arizona, it's not a bad play either, but it's expensive.
So, value or PU, Tavon Austin?
Okay, so because we're on brand here and we're on FanDuel, I think I'm going with PU as well.
Wait a second. He's actually pretty cheap on how cheap do you want him to be?
Well, because he gets all of those loads of targets around the line of scrimmage that are only, they're twice as valuable when you get a point per reception. He's gotten the end zone 1 time this year. I could see it, and he's cheap, so I could, he's 3,900 DK, and what is he, 5,700? I could see it, but I think there's a lot of guys I like more than him just because I feel like his upside is really limited if he's not going to go down the field at all. And
what do you mean? He's double dipped. He's going to run back. You like the double dip? You want to,
one dip and end it, Dean. One dip and end it.
You're a single dip guy?
Well, I eat the chip no matter how big it is in one bite, basically every time.
Tavon's all about that A-dot life, no?
He's low, that's why I don't want to play him.
All right, value or PU, Netflix? Okay,
so I was trying to find on my bank statement how much it costs. I couldn't even remember. Is it $12 or something a month?
I think it's $9.95. I think maybe it's $12.95 or whatever. Does it really affect your answer though?
No, it doesn't. I was just curious. I was like, oh yeah, am I still paying for that? So I searched.
You're not using your friends? Come on, that's you're doing life wrong.
I bet you at least 15 months I've had Netflix over the course of the time I've had it that I never used it once. So you would think that would make it PU. But with little kids.
Yeah.
The fact that they just have an arsenal of cartoons archived is glorious. Every weekend morning, my boys come in 6 o'clock. They know how to read time enough that they can't come in when the time says 5, but when it says 6, they're in. And all we do is just flip on the Netflix, roll over, and it just streams them. But I will say this, complaint about Netflix. You can go to kids or adults. If you go to kids, it just shows the cartoons. But then when I go to adults, all of their preferences feed into the overarching one. And then it's like, oh, here's all these shows we think you want to watch. And it's like, oh, I don't want any of those. But, man, for nothing else, $10 a month to have all those stand-up comedy specials in the background, value.
So there's not one like you haven't watched any of the original Netflix shows?
No, none of them. But what I have done is I think I binge watched, caught up on Breaking Bad. About half of How I Met Your Mother before I got current. I watched all of that Rules of Attraction show with Putty. I love that show.
Rules of Attraction with David Spade?
I did with David Putty though. It's got the guy from Seinfeld.
Okay, yeah, I didn't continue. Go ahead.
And then I also lost my train of thought there. Like it's relief to my DVR. Like I have a whole season of Better Call Saul. As soon as I see it's on Netflix, I can wipe that off and clear space because I have it archived. So huge value.
Better Call Saul, by the way, is shockingly great. Like I thought it was going to be like goofy and stupid and just kind of like almost like a money grab, like trying to capitalize on how popular Breaking Bad was. But Better Call Saul was like excellent. It's really, really good. It stands on its own.
Yep. I think it's just the peppers in the perfect amount of drama and comedy. I think they really toe that line very well.
I've heard this name thrown out there. This is not somebody not necessarily endorsing, but I've heard people talk about it. What are your thoughts on Philly Brown?
Who's this Philly Brown you talk about? I don't really know. I've done some searches. I see a gentleman named Corey Brown. I don't know.
No, the kids call him Philly when he was in Ohio State. I guess he dropped the Philly.
Yeah, he was officially Philly on there for a while and then got rid of it. I mean, wrote an article about Carolina as one of the 4 teams available and didn't even include him. Like, if you're paying for a non-Elvin Benjamin, you got to go Ginn, right?
Ugh.
I don't want any. The answer is
yes.
Please shut the door and turn on the fan. That's very impolite of you.
What just happened?
That's the answer. It's not just PU. It's please shut the door and turn on the fan, and I'm going in the guest bathroom.
Yeah. Bust out the potpourri. In the same game, Michael Thomas is 5'4". He's seen 20 targets the last two games. Are you intrigued?
I am. And you know what caught me off the guard the most? So Snead missed a game, and he had 11 targets, and he had a short touchdown. And Snead played in week 4, and he had a short touchdown. He had 9 targets. I looked up the snap percentages for that game. Michael Thomas had 78% of the snaps, more than Brandon Cooks or Snead. Like, they're rotating 3 basically through, but with equal playing time. His role is a little different than the other one, especially against Carolina. Carolina's defensive backfield is ravaged, right? Julio Jones basically just ended a guy's career. And then the 2 rookies there,
Ivan Drago went out in the field, actually.
They are sieve out there.
So same price. Cam Meredith is 5'4", and Thomas is 5'4". Who's your preference, or is it both? Are you going to cop out or what?
I do like both. I like Meredith more. Meredith, I feel more confident in. So there's a couple things going on there. I don't really trust the numbers versus number 1 wide receivers, number versus number 2, because there's so much variation in how teams do it. But Jacksonville, the laundry list of number 2 wide receivers that have gone off against them is everyone. It's just every single one of them. And also, excuse me, the targets to Kevin White and then Meredith are insane. So I'm definitely playing Cam Meredith. He makes everything work salary wise. I think his volume is too high to ignore at that price.
You just got Will actually in chat, by the way. Ben Wickery was picked up by Miami, but point noted still.
Playing cornerback for Miami doesn't mean he has a career.
That's the next step to what?
Afterlife. That's the afterlife right there.
So Tyler Eifert's been ruled out. CJ Uzoma? Value or PU? Oh,
how did this man make it on the list, dude? It's not like Eifert just got ruled out. He's been gone every single week all year. Usoma's had 3 scores that were 6 and a decimal point. That's his high. Because there's a lot of in New England. He makes him
because the game script suggests they're going to be playing from behind. Knowing Belichick, it suggests that they're going to be rolling coverage to AJ Green. And also, there's nobody under 5K that's a tight end that like is worth talking about.
I get that. I mean, LaFell came on last week with some targets and 2 touchdowns. If they need a secondary option, I think it's him, and I think it's our man Gio. And by our man, I mean my man.
The problem with Gio is, can I play him a tight end at 5'5"? I would play him 100% if I could play him a tight end. Can I do that or no?
You're going to have to find somebody at FanDuel that's going to have to do you a favor. They won't even sponsor our podcast, so I feel like it's a long shot.
I mean, I know a guy at Perk Plus. I try to get him to sponsor the podcast. That's not happening either. So, Gio, you're not playing in cash, I assume. Maybe you're throwing him out in tournaments at 5'7". You're expecting – and, he had 3/4 of the snaps or so last week, and we know in Cincinnati, basically, if Cincinnati's behind, Bernard's on the field and Hill isn't, and we think that New England's going to be ahead. Is that kind of the thought process?
That's the thought. But also, Hill is dealing with some sort of like pectoral injury. Sounds like he'll play, but banged up. Hill has been grossly ineffective, and just the game script feels so perfect for him. I think he's averaging 6 targets a game, which is, if it was a wide receiver averaging 6 targets, like you might consider him for 4. So this is a guy that's going to get some carries too.
But there's opportunity cost. Yeah.
Running back opportunity cost. This is a concept I agree with.
And so they're saying in the chat that Jesse James, he's 5'4". I said anybody under 5K. That was the stipulation. Jesse James at 5'4". Like he's in that whole conversation. We'll talk about those guys in a second. We have some time. A couple other guys. Oh, here you go. Value or PU. This is important. This is follow along here. Napoleon Dynamite was made for $400,000. $400,000. That's on the cheap. Value or PU.
So let me go ahead and color my response by letting you know I have never seen that movie front to back.
You're better off for
it. And that said, it is unquestionably a value. Just for the gifts, for Uncle Rico, for like so much that it's added to the zeitgeist, even without having seen it. It's a value for could be 10 million and it's a value.
You're giving this rousing endorsement and you didn't have like an extra 12 minutes to watch the movie in its entirety?
Listen, we're going to find out I forgot to watch something else later in this show as well. I don't watch a lot of TV these days.
Very unfortunate. Okay, so let me throw more your way. Okay, so this is the reason why I'm looking for tight ends, is because I don't want to roster Dennis Pitta, but it looks like Steve Smith's not going to play. And old man Pitta in his hip and a half is going to see like 9 targets or so against the Giants. Dennis Pitta, value or PU?
The thing that makes me distinctly like him more is that Steve Smith isn't going to play. And it feels like what they do for the offense, those low 8-out routes, I feel like Pitta can sub in for there and probably get a lot of volume. He was the number 1 tight end in week 2. So it's not like he doesn't have upside. He had 100 yards and
Gronk didn't play week 2.
What?
Gronk didn't play week 2.
No, I'm talking about Pitta.
No, I'm just trying to think of like, it must have been a horrible week for tight ends if Pitta was the number 1. Yeah, but go ahead. I cut you off. I apologize.
It was and it was my DK calculation. So all those receptions probably wasn't the case on FanDuel, but he did have 100 yards in a week when only a couple did. I think he's value, although I think I like Zach Ertz more than him. I think, despite what Zach Ertz did to us last week. But I do like it. I think that there's a good role for him to step in. The fact that he stood up in Joe Flacco's wedding, like, come on, narrative street.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he slept with the wrong bridesmaid or so. Who knows? I don't know what's going on there. I don't know the backstory, but yeah, I'm all aboard the narrative street. It's just a Dennis Pitta. I feel like there's like a 30% chance he doesn't play 4 quarters. Like, he just doesn't last the entire game. He's just going to combust at some point. But all right, let's move on. Let's move on to over-under. Would you believe it, Luke? We're actually behind on time, so we have to cut some things short. But over-under, fire away. You're going to be going back.
Okay. One thing, guys, we've been playing these 2 games. Like, we did value or PU, hardly said value or PU. We played a game about war, hardly talked about the values. We are keeping score this game. We are going back and forth. We will be keeping tallies about who wins and loses this, and we will reference it next week.
This time it counts. The All-Star game.
You is Cam Newton, who I think you like more than me. Over under 299.5 passing yards.
Yeah, I wish you can't throw in his rushing yards there.
Nope, just passing yards specifically.
Is he going to complete like a 70-yard pass to Ted Ginn?
Probably somebody named Philly or something. I don't really know.
Oh boy, that's a lot. That's really a lot. I think he's facing New Orleans, right?
Yep, he's in what does Levitan call it? Coors Field?
Yeah, I don't know who gets the credit for that one, but yeah, it's definitely the Coors Field of the NFL. Yeah, sure. Let's go over. Sure, why not?
Going over. All right. Fire.
Oh, I shouldn't have done that. All right, so Antonio Brown. I mentioned before, narrative street for Antonio Brown back in Miami. How many celebratory pumps Over under 2.5 pumps.
Oh, you should have said it at a half a pump, my friend. You should have, because, I mean, you can tell that the league is getting to him, because what did he do after he scored his touchdown? He walked over to a fan and handed him a football. They've broken him, man. They've broken his spirit. He's going to give under 2.5 pumps.
No, if Key and Peele and McCringleberry taught us anything, it's that 2 pumps is okay. It's the third pump that gets you the flag. So that's why I made it 2.5. Basically, is he going to get the flag for the third pump? But all right, again, keep score, jot it down, and you would have went under on 1.5 pumps.
I think so. Yeah.
Man, what a bad line I set.
All right, so let's go with LaShawn McCoy, 1.5 targets plus carries inside the 5.
Oh, he's going to score in the first one. He's going to score in the second one. Over. Yeah, over.
You think they'll both be inside the 5?
Yeah. Gillislee's not going to be in there. No, he's going to score a touchdown into the 5. That's happening.
All right, he goes over again. You're always the optimist, Dino. Always the optimist.
It's all about LaShawn McCoy this week. So it's funny. We asked each other the same question. So longest – I mean, we were very close as far as our projection to. It's so weird. We actually had the same question. We were doing this separately. But longest Sammy Coates reception at 38.5 yards over under.
And I'd set the line at 39. I'm going to go under, although the news that makes this harder is that it sounds like he's catching the ball, he's going to play, and Wheaton's not going to play. So that does help his cause. But that said, he is a guy that can't really catch the ball, and now his stitches in his hand. Just like 40's a lot, man. And I'm very proud of him for having done it 5 weeks in a row. But I feel like because it starts at 0, the default is 0, I just got to go under.
And also, I think Eli Rogers is back this week.
Yeah. Eli's back, but now Wheaton's out, right? So it's like how they jigger that, I don't really know.
I'm not really sure. But, I mean, he's also got a cast on his hand, which is that going to help him or hurt him? We don't know. But he had stitches last week. And as of right now, I have 0 Coates. Like, I'm just fading the dude. I don't know if it's a mistake.
I like both of those guys, Mike Thomas and Cam Meredith more. All right, I got a good one for you. The Siege. From the end of our show until kickoff on Sunday, over or under 24.5 tweets.
Are these any particular kind of tweets, like outrageous
Anything.
tweets?
I'm including at tweets. So no, even if it's like, it only shows up if you click with mentions, I'm including those.
Oh, the over. I'm smashing the over. It's not even a conversation.
I mean, whoever's supposed to like 36 hours.
About I don't know, late swap or so. That's like 20 tweets right there. So we're 4 away. It's over. It's a lot.
That's true. That's a bad line by me.
That's a terrible line.
For what it's worth, I've gone under every time. You've gone over every time. Bring it.
Jamal Charles, total touches, 12.5. Now, bear in mind, before you answer this, I want to full disclosure. I read a tweet from the Jamal Charles. This is a quote directly from his Twitter machine. You ready?
Yep.
I'm ready to let the training wheels off. I don't want them on. I know how to ride. Take them off and let me ride. Now, 12.5.
Let me get a clarification here. Does a touch include a target that's not a reception?
Ooh.
It's just receptions plus carries, right?
Yeah, isn't that a legit touch?
I think technically a touch is a reception plus carry. Even if they throw it to you, you drop it and it's off your hands.
Correct, yeah. So I think it's receptions plus carries.
I'm going under. Because one, I guess under is my brand here, but also because I think there was a coach that said we're going to sprinkle in Charles. Like, do you remember when he was the guy? He would get 12 touches. So, like, now he's getting sprinkled? Like, you can't sprinkle 12.5. That's not even a sprinkle. That's a pour. Sprinkle is under 12.5.
It's a touch. It's a pinch.
Okay, let me give you one more. Okay, Dino. Tight ends under 6,400. So not Gronk, not Olsen, not Reed, not Graham, not Walker, and not Bennett, but also exclude Henry.
Do I get Kelsey?
4.5 touchdowns this week.
Do I get Kelsey?
No Kelsey.
4.5 touchdowns. Let's see. Eifert,
6,400 is the number. Under 6,400.
Yeah, Eifert's not going to score. Allen's not going to score. Miller's not going to score. Thomas is not going to score. Fleener's going to score. Pitta's not going to score. Jesse James not going to score. Ertz is going to score. That's 2.
Clay?
Charles Clay's going to score. That's 3. Rogers, but no. Donnell, no. Cameron, no. He's retiring. Crockett Gilmore. He might siphon Pitta, maybe. Jack Doyle. Doyle does not rule this week. Oh, Ozoma. Ozoma's going to score twice. Over.
No. Over. On brand. All right, let's flip over to the last thing we want to do here today.
Well, I got one more. For you before we step aside. Over under 1.5. 1.5. There's a show that's following us. You guys should know by now. It's actually he just popped up. Jeff the Jeff is in chat. He's lurking. Hi, Jeff. And of course, JM to win and Adam Levitan. The show following us, right? 1.5. Number of times Levitan says Stone in the show in any context.
Okay, so here's
like Steve Stone or Harry Stone, like just the word Stone not used as a name.
Here's the metagame. I think that this is going to get back to him before their show starts because Jeff is right there. So whatever I guess, I'm also getting information about his feelings about me because he can very easily manipulate the results of the game. But that said, my brand is under, and if you had set the line at 1, I would have went push. So I'm going under. I'm going with one singular usage. I believe that's about average, 1 to 1.25 over the 5 weeks. So
I got the over. I feel pretty good about 1.5. We're not going to push. I'm not going to put the hook on it.
I know.
Why does nobody ever say like 1.3 or like 1.7 or 1.89? It's the same result, right?
JM just went bet the house on over. You probably go like 1.69 then. They're all over. All right. Fair enough. All right.
We got 3 minutes before we get out of here. We got to talk some smack to Siege and Stevie. Go ahead.
First of all, gentlemen, my apologies. I handled getting my lineup ripped to shreds very poorly and went on a Twitter rant that made me feel like a lunatic. My apologies. Number 2, you guys, math. Like, it was very obvious we pivoted off of Evans, so we had a chance. We had 160. You had 180. Won by 20. Congratulations. Good job. Number 3, your name. You were Team Crazy and Team GPP. You got your butt kicked in baseball. Now you're Team MG. Like, just so you know, we know the insurance companies that went bankrupt and had to get a bailout. Even
they're the Enron at DFS.
So your rebrand, you're going to be Team Rebrand because we know what your brand was. It was losing in baseball, and we expected to lose again. Dean, explain to them what they're doing with the slates because I think it's a little silly.
They manipulated they sent us a game last week. We didn't complain about it, but they all of a sudden said, let's throw the Monday night game in under the guise that, like, we're going to throw the Monday night game in because we want it to be a fun sweat on Monday night. No, they wanted to play guys on Monday night. Now they want to play guys on Monday night again. And since it's our turn to send the game to them, I'm having fun with them. I sent them just a 1 o'clock only slate. They got mad at me. I sent them just a Sunday only slate. They got mad at me, and they refused to sign up for it. So right now we're at a standstill. What do we do? Like, should we keep having fun with Siege and keep tilting them? That'll smash the over as far as the mentions on Twitter. What
do you think, chat? The first week we played just Sunday only. Should we change it? I mean, what do you guys think, chat?
They want to play Palmer and John Brown. Like, we can do the same thing too, just to with them. But that's basically kind of where we're at right now.
Anyway, chat, I was trying to give away some swag for this. It sounds like I don't have the authority to do it, but please, everybody, put in your predictions, which team and by how much, and I'll keep track anyway. Just see who's closest, and we'll talk about it next week. Beyond that, we're sorry. I totally forgot to watch Kerp, so I'm awesome there. Dean, I'm glad you didn't die in a hurricane. What else do we have for him before we split?
I have a play for them that I think is I wouldn't say it's an average play.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's a standard play. I wouldn't just say it's a run-of-the-mill play, but I would say it's a pretty good play. And that play is, I'm all about that chalk life, so I'm going with LaShawn McCoy. He's going to get all the revenge. He's going to run for over 100 yards. He's going to get in the box twice. He's going to shove it right in Chip Kelly's face. With that, Luke, any last words before we step aside for the GOAT show? Of course, JM to win, and Levitan and Jeff the Jeff. Levitan, if you're out there watching, just drop a couple stones. Make it interesting. Don't say stone until like 3 minutes left in the show, and then it's like double stone it. With that,
double stone. What if he just hits it with the stone like just? Maybe I went under for everything except one thing when I did the notes, and I'm like, well, I gotta go under for that thing too. No, I got nothing else. Good luck this weekend, guys.
All right, y'all. Enjoy your football. Enjoy your Friday night. We're out of here. Holler.